Now, I am pretty sure that at least once or twice in your life you have come across a video or an article or a smartass purist saying that so and so book or light novel or manga cannot be adapted into an anime, as in it's unadaptable. But what if I told you that this word and the idea behind it are complete and total bullshit? Cue the intro. I don't have an intro.
Why are we still here?
Yeah, whatever. Hello and welcome back, my filthy weebs. Your friendly neighborhood degenerate here, back with another buck-ass video with more cringy-ass jokes. A few years ago, in 2017, PewDiePie made a video titled My Favorite Manga, in which he talks about an old and obscure manga called Blam. It doesn't go into a lot of detail, but that was a good short introduction. He talks about how it's very unique with a distinctive narrative style that builds an amazing world the likes of which you really can't find anywhere else. After watching that video, many of us went and read Blam and loved it. Some of us, though, were overjoyed that a big name YouTube personality, who wasn't even an anime YouTuber by the way, talked about a relatively unknown manga that they considered to be very special and precious. I was one of those people. And then Netflix went and released their bastardized adaptation, the Blam movie. And Pewds made another video about how they f***ed it up. The movie itself was fine, arguably, but it was a bad adaptation of the manga. In fact, the manga is considered to be unadaptable. Now, back then I didn't have a YouTube channel, but now I do, and I can say whatever the f I want, so here's me talking about why there's no such thing as an unadaptable manga. Also, minor spoilers ahead, blah blah blah, you know the drill. Now, before getting into the unadaptable part, let's talk about what makes a good adaptation. Well, one thing is sure, and it goes without saying, that it has to stay faithful to the source material and not go all Tokyo Ghoul up on our asses. The most textbook rule of a good adaptation I've ever come across was something along the lines of, when an anime enhances the experience of the manga, when it adds to it rather than taking away from it, then it becomes a good adaptation. Yes, we f***ing know. We can Google. But what does it actually mean? Well, to explain this, I'm gonna give the example of two anime, Attack on Titan and Demon Slayer. Now, there are a lot of things that these anime do that add to the experience of the manga. But for the sake of simplicity, I'm gonna focus on one particular detail, the dynamic aspect of these anime. Take Levi versus Kenny Squad in Attack on Titan. Now, I'm not the manga expert guy, but I think that the manga flows pretty well. I mean, I don't have a problem following the action, but the anime is at a whole nother level. I mean, just look at this. The manga pales in comparison. It also has these extra shots in between the ones that are taken directly from the panels of the manga. They didn't have to go out of their way to make these amazing shots with great fucking animation that are not even in the manga, but they did. And that made the chase more exhilarating and gave the scene better flow. Same thing with Demon Slayer. It does an amazing job at translating that movement, that flow from the manga to the anime. The manga is good, don't get me wrong, but you don't break the internet with this, right? Also keep in mind that I'm not talking about the animation quality, but the flow of the scene as compared to the manga, which in turn governs the overall pacing of the anime. This is what it means to add to the experience. Now, another very important factor in making a good anime adaptation is taking what works in the medium or changing it to make it work. Let's call it translating the manga into anime form. Obviously, manga and anime are two very different storytelling mediums. The writing, the execution, the pacing, everything is different. And it is up to the people involved to take that story and retell it in anime form, even if that means changing things up a bit. Surprisingly, Nagatoro-san is a good example of this, considering that it's about a girl that bullies a guy. That's it. that's the whole anime. But they did a great job by reorganizing the narrative by moving things around and telling the events in a different order than it is in the manga. This sounds like a small thing, and it is a small thing, but it has a huge impact on the narrative. The anime feels a lot more organized as compared to the manga. It's like the people who made the anime were actual fans and they really understood the manga. You sick masochist fuck! Another example of that would be how this amazing scene from Death Note is not even in the manga. I talk about it in more detail in my Light Yagami video, so be sure to check that out. Finally, the most important thing in making a good anime adaptation: the mood or tone. But Kai, I see you writing down in the comment section, mood and tone are two completely different things, you uneducated swine. Yes, I know, but I'm just trying to keep things simple here. Tone is what I want to talk about, but if I get into the mood, then I would also need to explain how the mood of a story influences its tone, and then it becomes a completely different discussion. So let's talk about tone. The tone of the story is the atmosphere that it creates. In other words, what it makes you feel. Depression, hope, excitement, longing, flatulence. Every story has a different tone. It's mostly consistent throughout the entire story, but individual scenes can have a different tone. Like, for example, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Or the tone can gradually change, deliberately of course, as the story progresses, like in Attack on Titan. Now there are three most important factors that you need to keep in mind that can make or break the tone of an anime: the art style, the pacing, and the music. And that's it. That's all you need to do to make a good adaptation. Granted, there are other things like voice acting, animation quality, etc., but they're important when making a good anime. Period. Not specifically for doing an adaptation. So now that we are armed with this knowledge of the most important elements necessary to successfully adapt a manga into an anime, we can actually take a crack at identifying what makes Blam a bad adaptation, and is the manga really unadaptable? And as a bonus, I'll throw in another one: Berserk. Well, partly because it's considered to be unadaptable, and in my humble opinion, it's one of the best manga ever written. But also to keep that PewDiePie theme going long enough to justify him being in the thumbnail, if you know what I mean. Let's start with Blam. Apart from the Netflix movie, Blam has had several other adaptations throughout the years. There's Blam 2003, which is an ONA with 6 short episodes. Blam Special, also an ONA, also 2003, also 6 short episodes. And finally, Blam Prologue 2007, 2 short episode OVA. Now, if you look at them from an anime watcher's perspective, they're not really adaptations of the manga. They're more like an introduction to the world of Blam. So we can't really judge them as its adaptations. That leaves us the Netflix movie as the definitive Blam adaptation by the process of elimination. And mind you, I use the word definitive very, very loosely here. So what exactly went wrong? Problem number 1, it doesn't follow the manga. Now this statement can have several different meanings depending on the context, and funnily enough, they're all true for Blam. 1, they start right in the middle of the manga, so it doesn't really adapt the whole thing, but rather takes different elements from different story arcs and mushes them all together. 2, it tells the whole story in exposition in the beginning of the film. You know, in the manga, you're dropped in the middle of this futuristic post-apocalyptic world, and you have to figure it out as you read, and then you finish it, and you still don't understand anything. So you read again and then again for the 3rd time. And then you go on the internet and ask people, what the fuck did I just read? So you can finally get some answers. But the movie tells you at the beginning. What the fuck?
It's like if you worked your whole day to get an ice cream, and then all of a sudden everyone just gets ice creams for free.
3, it changes the characters and other world building details. The cute blushing girl? Yeah, no creatures like that are ever seen in the world of Blam in the manga. Romance? We don't do that here. Also, you see this energy bar thing? It's like an MRE that you can take with you and eat whenever you want. Makes sense for the world of Blam to have something like this, because it's a huge world and you might have to travel like hundreds of thousands of miles at a time. Well, according to the movie, if you put it in water, it expands so that you can feed an entire village with a single bar. Do you know where else you can find water? Inside the stomach of a human being. So one of two things is true. Either Killy's stomach exploded and the rest of the story was just the delusions of a dying man, or the movie is talking out of its ass. You decide. That was just problem number 1, by the way. Problem number 2, adding to the experience. No, it does not add to the experience. It adds certain elements, and the elements that it adds take it further away from the core themes of the manga, so no. Problem number 3, here's a tricky one. It only takes the elements of the manga that work in the film and changes certain things to fit within the narrative of the film, which is exactly what I said a good adaptation should do. So what's the problem here? Well, for starters, it doesn't adapt the whole damn thing, and it changes a bit too much. So much that it affects the tone of the film, which leads us to problem number 4, tone. The tone of the film is very different from that of the manga, or at least I felt like that. Let me know in the comments what you thought. But I don't know, man. It has one arc and it's got more dialogue than the entire manga. Killy is an action man guy person. The movie looks too clean because of the CGI, and it's also too damn dark. Not the tone, the look. You know, when you've harnessed 100% of the sun's energy, you don't live in dark places, bro. Yes, there are dark places in the world, but there's a day and night cycle. And during the day part of that, the world is pretty bright and generally very roomy. Look up Dyson Sphere. You'll know what I'm talking about. But like every other post-apocalyptic cyberpunk world, it's gotta be a dark, cramped space. Why? You're not inside a cave, you're in a building. Whenever you're inside a building where sunlight doesn't reach, it doesn't make the thing completely dark. You have light sources. Jeez. Now I know you're writing down in the comment section, "Shut the f*** up, Kai, I love that film." And it's fine. If you think that's a good film, it might actually be a good film. But what it's not is a good adaptation of the manga. And I'll let you in on a little secret. Only the people who didn't read the manga before watching the film are the ones who actually like the film. Moving on to Berserk, Kentaro Miura's eternal masterpiece. Rest in peace, sensei. It has 3 different adaptations. The 1997 anime, the best of the bunch, the Golden Age arc movies 2012 and 13, which have better visuals, but it's CGI, so that automatically makes it bad, and the 2017 anime, which is, how do I put it in a subtle way? A fucking disaster! Now, Berserk 1997 is the closest in tone and atmosphere to the manga. Dare I say they nailed it. But it's missing characters and plot points which become very important later down the line. And not to mention, it ends on a fucking cliffhanger. Gee, I wonder why? That's the reason that despite being an amazing anime and a great translation of many elements of the manga, such as its characters and atmosphere, it's not a good adaptation. And saying that hurts me as much as it hurts you. Because I love Berserk 1997, but the truth needs to be told. The Golden Age arc movies follow the manga more closely, and jokes aside, they look pretty good. Especially the third one. The problem is pacing. They are painfully fast-paced. And to be honest, they fail to recreate the tone of the manga, unlike the 97 adaptation. It's completely missing the bleak tone and the gritty atmosphere. It feels lacking. Take a look at this scene in the 97 anime and the Golden Age movie and tell me which one is better.
これでお前は俺のものだ。
これでお前は俺のものだ。
See what I mean? It's missing something compared to the other one. Be it the music or the art style or how the shots linger just a little more in the old one. The movie ain't got it. The tone is not there. As for the 2017 anime, I'm not gonna talk about it because there's a lot wrong with it and neither you nor I have that kind of time or temperament. But there's one thing I'm curious about. Is it really the CGI? What I mean to say is that can we ever make a good looking CG anime that has fluid animation and it perfectly captures the gritty and noisy look of these manga? Because when you think about it, the only thing that's common in all the anime that I mentioned in this video that, you know, suck is CGI. Well, to answer that question, have you seen any JoJo opening? They are entirely CG and totally awesome, and they capture that look perfectly. So it does work. Well, yes, but actually no. You see, these are highly stylized opening credits that are like a minute and a half long. And if something works in that format, it doesn't necessarily mean that it'll work for an entire anime. Right? Well, yes, but actually no. Tell me, are you familiar with an anime movie called Batman Ninja? Yes, there is a CG animated Batman anime movie called Batman Ninja made by the same people who did the openings for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Just take a moment to appreciate the sheer absurdity of that sentence. And the film is even more ridiculous. You need to watch it if you haven't already. It's a fucking acid trip. So what that means is that we can make CGI anime that don't have that clean look and have a lot of detail in the art style and fluid animation. Well, yes, but actually no. You see, if you can do that in a feature-length film, doesn't necessarily mean that you can also do it for an anime series with a weekly release schedule. It all goes down to the time given for production and budget allocation for, oh hello Land of the Lustrous! Almost didn't see you there. Ah, Land of the Lustrous. The first fully CG rendered anime series to not suck. I mean, not suck is really an understatement because that shit was revolutionary, man. Suddenly, everyone was talking about how far the CG has come and how great it's gonna be in the future and how the shots that would be either impossible or very difficult to pull off with traditional 2D animation techniques could be easily achieved with CGI. And then everyone stopped talking about it when Berserk 2017 came out. But it's possible, right? To make a good CG Berserk or Blam anime. Well, yes! But actually, no. You see, Land of the Lustrous looks great and it has amazing animation. But that art style and backgrounds, do you really believe that something like Berserk or Blam would pass with flying colors looking like that? Hell no. So we're back where we started, without an answer, because there's not a single CG anime that looks good, has fluid animation, has detailed backgrounds, and captures the noisy art style. Right? Well, yes, but actually no. Allow me to introduce you to Dorohedoro. Great looking CG, check. Noisy looking art style, check. Detailed characters and world, check. Fluid ass high quality animation, check. In fact, it was so good that when it came out, nobody talked about the CGI any more than, hey, it's CG and it looks good. Which is a good thing, because the CG didn't stand out. It was not a distraction. Now, anyone who's seen this anime knows what I'm talking about when I say if they can turn this into this, they can surely turn this into this. So yeah, it's not the CGI. So that leads us to the big question. How can we make a good Blam or Berserk anime adaptation? Well, with everything we've talked about so far, I think it's a pretty straightforward question to answer. All you need to do is these 4 things. Number 1, say it with me kids, stay faithful to the source material. Just follow the damn manga to the T. Sure, a faithful adaptation of a manga such as Blam might not become successful because the manga is very slow paced, it has very little dialogue, there's no romance or any other stereotypical subplot like that, and even the main character is not someone you would find very relatable. His whole character could be summed up in literally 4 words. Jeans, yes, no, and boom. So yeah, it might end up being a financial failure. But we're not talking about successful anime. We're talking about good adaptations. Look at it this way. Is the manga for everyone? No. So will the anime be for everyone? Hell no! But the point is that it's not unadaptable. Number 2. Adding to the experience. Just watch Berserk 1997. You'll get all the answers you need regarding adding to the experience of the manga. Remember this scene, right? Number 3. Translation! It could be anything from rearranging the sequence of events to changing dialogues to tweaking character models to adding new scenes. Just make what works for the medium without deviating too far from the source material. And finally, once again with me kids, number 4. The tone! Well, let's say the music, specifically. For Berserk, I humbly defer you to the 97 anime once again. And as for Blam, just throw some synth at it. But not like the Devilman kind, more like Vaporwave, Chillwave, or the Lo-Fi synth. And don't make it dark. I mean, what you're essentially making is a fantasy adventure quest / dungeon crawler set in a post-apocalyptic cyberpunk world. So yeah, don't make it look like we're inside a cave. And there you have it. There's your good adaptations of allegedly unadaptable manga, proving that if it doesn't already exist, then it does not mean that it's impossible to make. Alright, I know it doesn't really prove anything, but what if I told you that there already exists a great adaptation of a truly unadaptable light novel, the Monogatari series? It is so out there in terms of unadaptableness that manga like Berserk and Blam don't even come close. First of all, the narrative style, the stream of consciousness. Then there's the tell don't show thing going on. It's full of exposition. It's the only anime that can make a 10-minute long monologue entertaining. There's also the unreliable narrator angle, and on top of that, the series of events are not even in chronological order. I talk about all of these things in a lot more detail in my No One Understands Senjo Gahara video. You can check that out here if you're interested. Now on paper, an anime adaptation of the Monogatari series shouldn't work at all, but reality is different and not disappointing at all. They literally pulled off the impossible, made a great anime adaptation of a truly unadaptable source material. How did they do that? They followed these 4 rules. So the next time someone says unadaptable, you go, nah fam, just bad adaptation. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. Tell me down in the comment section, was this a good informative video or am I just talking out of my ass? And as always, thank you for watching and I'll see you all in the next one.